It's just a simple patch of asphalt, right? A couple of painted white lines. We see them literally every day. But that humble little parking spot, well, it has a surprisingly complex and hidden story. In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain and see what's really going on behind that painted line.
I mean, who hasn't been there? That sinking feeling in your stomach when you see that little piece of paper tucked under your windshield wiper. It is a universal and, let's be honest, infuriating experience.
But have you ever actually stopped to wonder, beyond the frustration of the moment, where does all that money really go? It turns out it's a journey that takes us from some pretty lofty city planning ideals to billion-dollar businesses and some really tough questions about who's actually paying the price.
Okay, so first up, let's start with the official story. Why do our cities seem so obsessed with managing and metering and ticketing every last inch of curb space?
But the goal you'll hear about, the public-facing one, is actually pretty noble. It's all about solving city gridlock. The idea is, if you manage parking smartly, you cut down on all those cars just endlessly circling the block, hunting for a spot. And that means less traffic, less pollution, and way, way less frustration for drivers. And one of the key tools they use to do this is something called variable price parking. It's really just basic economics applied to the street. You treat parking like any other resource that's in short supply. When a ton of people want a spot, the price goes up. When demand is low, hey, the price goes down. Simple as that. And let's take a real-world example to see how this works. San Francisco has this program called SF Park. It uses all this data to adjust meter prices in real time. Now, here's the cool part. Their goal is to keep parking occupancy somewhere between 60 and 80%. So what that tells you is the city isn't just trying to squeeze every dollar out of you, it's actively managing the curb to make sure there's almost always an open spot. Now here's another really clever policy tool. It's called unbundling. Think about it. For decades, the cost of a parking spot was just hidden, right? It was bundled into your apartment rent or the price of your groceries. Unbundling pulls that cost out and makes it visible. And when people see that a parking spot is going to cost them, say, an extra $200 a month, they start to wonder if they really need that car after all. And that can really reduce the overall demand for parking.
Okay, so that's the nice, clean, smart city ideal. But, well, it turns out there's a whole other side to this story, a much more profitable side, which is how parking enforcement turned into a massive, massive business.
Get ready for this number, £1 billion. That's how much local authorities in the UK make from their parking operations every single year. It's just a staggering figure, and it kind of hints that there's more going on here than just traffic management.
And if you think that's wild, get this. That is the amount of fine money brought in from a single road in London in just 1 year. This isn't just about keeping cars moving anymore. It is a major, major revenue stream.
So how on earth did we get here? Well, a really key moment was a policy change called decriminalized parking enforcement. Basically, the job of handing out most parking tickets moved away from the police and was given to local councils. And here's the crucial part. That change meant the councils got to keep the money they collected. All of a sudden, parking enforcement wasn't just about traffic flow, it was a billion-pound business opportunity.
But here's the thing. Generating all that cash, well, it comes at a cost. And that cost is not shared equally by everyone. Which brings us to the most important question of all. Who is really paying the price for the system? Now, there's a term for this, and it sounds kind of academic, but stick with me. It's actually super simple. Regressive revenue. All it means is a tax or a fine that takes a much bigger chunk of income from people with less money than it does from people with more. I mean, a $100 parking ticket might be an annoyance for one person, right? But for someone else, that's a budget-breaking crisis. And, this isn't just a theory. When researchers actually crunch the numbers, the findings are, well, they're pretty blunt. Urban studies scholars Ty Lee and Matthew Young put it plainly, these revenue sources are, and I quote, regressive and discriminatory as they disproportionately affect low-income, racially/ethnically minoritized groups. So take a look at this chart. It's based on research from California, and it really just lays it all out visually. You can see a really clear pattern. Cities with larger populations of people of color tended to depend way more on the money they got from fines and fees than majority white cities did. And the study didn't stop there. It dug even deeper. It found a direct statistical link as a California city's Latinx and Hispanic population went up, So did the city's reliance on money from fines and fees. It really suggests that how a city raises its money isn't neutral at all. It can be shaped by and have a much bigger impact on specific communities. Okay, so it's clear the system has some major issues. The big question is, can we do better? Are there smarter, fairer ways to handle all this? Let's take a look at how some cities are trying. Well, one of the most promising ideas out there is something called a parking benefit district. And it's a simple idea, but it's really powerful. Any money that's raised from parking meters in a neighborhood has to be spent on public improvements, right there in that same neighborhood. And you can see here just how that cycle works. It's actually pretty brilliant when you think about it. The meters bring in money, and that money then pays for things the community can actually see and use, like cleaner streets, maybe better lighting, or brand new sidewalks. This completely changes the dynamic from a penalty that just vanishes into some giant city budget to a direct investment back into your own community. So, at the end of the day, what this all comes down to is this. That parking spot outside your home, it's not just a place to leave your car. It's this intersection of city planning, public finance, and social fairness. And it forces us all to ask a really fundamental question. Is that spot a public service, a source of revenue, or maybe a hidden tool of inequality? Something to think about the next time you go to feed the meter.